Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, just for a moment, you're an FBI hostage negotiator.
Yeah.
Not just any FBI guy, right? But a former Kansas City beat cop. Someone who learned their stuff on the streets.
Right. Real world experience.
Exactly. Now, picture yourself suddenly tossed into this, super high-stakes role play.
Okay.
And it's not just some classroom exercise. Your son's life is supposedly on the line.
Wow. High pressure.
Totally. And across the table, two of the absolute sharpest minds in negotiation theory, Harvard Law School professors.
Oh, okay. Heavy hitters.
Big time. They've got the fancy degrees, the big theories, and they hit you with, give us $1 million.
$1 million, just like that.
Just like that. What would you do? I mean, most people would probably freak out, right? Argue, try to reason.
Yeah, panic mode.
But this guy, Chris Voss, he did something, completely unexpected, something that just flipped the whole script. Yeah. And it really shed something deep about how people tick.
What's so fascinating here, I think, is how this incredibly chaotic world of hostage negotiation.
Yeah, where lives are literally on the line.
Exactly. How it reveals these universal truths about human behavior. This deep dive, it isn't just about the drama, the life-saving stories. It's really a shortcut.
A shortcut to what, exactly?
To understanding the surprising psychology behind why people say yes or no. How our feelings, our emotions, actually drive our decisions way more than logic does.
Which is pretty counterintuitive for a lot of us.
Totally.
Right.
And maybe the most important part is how you can take these insights, these techniques from the edge, and actually apply them. Transform pretty much every interaction in your daily life.
So tough talks at work. Or even just, disagreements with family.
Absolutely. From the boardroom to the kitchen table.
Yeah.
These principles are surprisingly powerful, and they work everywhere.
And the core of our discussion today, it's pulled straight from the work of that FBI negotiator himself, right? Chris Voss.
That's right. Specifically from the introduction and the first 10 chapters of his book, Never Split the Difference. It's really influential stuff.
It really is. It's like a gold mine of these surprising facts, psychological nuggets. And our mission today really is to distill those key takeaways for you, help you feel more clued in, more equipped to handle, any negotiation life throws at you. Okay, so let's paint the picture for this origin story, because it really is a clash of two completely different worlds.
It really sets the stage.
So you've got Chris Voss, seasoned FBI agent, and he finds himself at Harvard, right, thinking he's just there for a, quiet executive negotiating course.
With some professional development, brush up on theory.
Exactly. Nothing too dramatic. But then, things take a turn. He gets this invitation from Robert Mnookin.
The Robert Mnookin,
right.
Director of the Harvard Negotiation Research Project. Wrote Bargaining with the Devil.
The very same. Voss says he felt, honored, obviously, but also, honestly, a bit intimidated, scared even, going up against that kind of academic firepower.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the pressure just keeps building.
Oh. Yeah. Just as they're settling in walks another Harvard professor, Gabriella Bloom.
Ah, the International Negotiations Specialist. Israeli National Security Council background, IDF. Very impressive.
Seriously impressive. Yep. So they put a tape recorder down, they smile, and Mnookin just drops the bomb. We've got your son, Voss. Give us $1 million or he dies.
Boom. Instant high-stakes role play. Designed to test theory, not street smarts.
Right. And you can just imagine that jolt of panic, even in a role play, right? Your son's life.
Your gut just clenches.
Totally. Most people's instinct, argue, demand proof, try to logic your way out. But Voss, he draws on all that street cop experience. Real world stuff.
So what did he do?
He manages to calm himself down. Instead of attacking, he gives Mnookin this long, slow stare.
Yeah.
Then a smile, which must have been weird.
A smile, okay.
And then asks the simplest, most disarming question. How am I supposed to do that?
Ah, the calibrated question. We'll get more into that later, I'm sure.
Definitely. And he followed up, being polite, saying, I'm sorry, Robert, but how do I know he's even alive? How can I get you any money right now, much less $1 million, if I don't even know he's alive? He even used his first name, adding that little bit of warmth.
That's brilliant. Just totally counterintuitive. Mnookin and Bloom, they were apparently completely flustered.
Because they expected him to play their game, right? The Harvard game.
Exactly. The rational give and take. But that question, how am I supposed to do that? It buys you time. And crucially, it gives the other person the illusion of control.
Illusion of control. I like that.
Yeah. It shifts the whole frame. Suddenly, it's not Voss defending against a threat. It's Mnookin needing to figure out how to solve Voss's problem. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it flips the whole dynamic.
And it really highlights that big gap, doesn't it, between the Harvard way and the FBI way?
Absolutely. Harvard's approach was all intellect, logic. Those acronyms, right? BATNA.
Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Your fallback plan.
Right. And Zupio.
Zone of possible agreement, where the deal supposedly happened.
Exactly. Their whole thing was rational value, fairness, this very structured, almost like robotic process. A then B then C equals X.
Assuming people act logically, purely out of self-interest.
Which, let's be honest, how often does that actually happen? The FBI's approach was completely different. Born from real-world successes, kidnappings resolved.
But initially, no grand theories, right? Just what worked.
Just what worked with, mercenaries, drug dealers, terrorists, people who are often anything but rational.
So Voss started wondering, could these street-smart FBI techniques actually work with, normal people in everyday situations?
And he tested it right there at Harvard in their winter negotiation course.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to do that? Oh, this really smart student, Andy.
And what happened?
Andy apparently admitted later, damn, that's what happened. I had no idea. It just worked.
Wow.
And if you zoom out, what this whole episode shows, this disconnect, it lines up perfectly with what behavioral economics tells us, Kahneman and Tversky's work.
Right. The guys who showed humans aren't rational calculators.
Not at all. We're inherently irrational, emotional. Our feelings are a form of thinking. Cognitive biases, they mess with our decisions all the time.
Like the framing effect. How you present something matters.
Hugely. And especially loss aversion. We are psychologically wired to avoid losing something much more strongly than we're motivated to gain something of equal value.
So we'll take bigger risks to avoid a loss.
Exactly. Our emotions constantly overguide pure logic. It's just how we're built.
It's fascinating stuff. And the FBI's shift towards understanding this, it came from tragedy, didn't it?
It did. That Jacksonville, Florida hijacking back in '71, it ended badly. 3 deaths.
And the courts found the FBI negligent?
Yeah, said they didn't make a reasonable attempt at negotiations before going tactical.
Yeah.
That really forced a change inside the Bureau. Negotiations suddenly became serious business.
And that's when that problem-solving approach, like from the book Getting to Yes, became popular.
Right. Focus on interests, not positions. Separate the person from the problem. Look for win-win options. Use objective criteria.
Sounds good on paper.
It was revolutionary at the time. But then, Ruby Ridge in '92, Waco in '93, those disasters showed its limits. Starkly.
How so?
Well, getting to yes kind of falls apart when you're dealing with truly irrational actors, people driven by extreme ideology. Someone who thinks they're the Messiah, for instance. You can't just problem solve with them in the same way.
Right. And logic doesn't work if the other side isn't playing by logic's rules.
Exactly. So the FBI had to look beyond those rational models. They had to dive into something much messier, much more human emotion.
So the FBI, the guys Voss jokingly calls the meatheads, they started teaching empathy while the Ivy League was still focused on, game theory and math.
Kind of ironic, isn't it? Total plot twist. They stumbled onto this key insight from psychotherapy research that when people feel genuinely heard, genuinely understood, they actually start listening to themselves more carefully. They get less defensive. And paradoxically, they become more open to other ideas.
Feeling heard makes you more open.
Precisely. And that understanding led to the birth of what the FBI calls tactical empathy.
Which he describes as listening as a martial art. I love that phrase.
Me too. It's not passive. It's not just agreeing or feeling sorry for someone. That's sympathy. Right. Tactical empathy is active. It's balancing emotional intelligence, understanding emotions with assertive influence. It's about gaining access to the other person's mind, seeing the world through their eyes.
So why is that so crucial? I mean, beyond just being nice, how does it work in a negotiation?
Because negotiation, deep down, is human interaction.
Yeah.
It's about influencing behavior. And you simply cannot influence what you don't understand.
Makes sense.
Voss defines negotiation as communication with results, getting what you want from people, but also with people. And honestly, life is negotiation, isn't it?
Every single day. Getting a raise, deadlines, deciding with your partner, even just what's for dinner.
Exactly. And conflict. It's unavoidable in any real relationship. The goal isn't to dodge conflict, but to navigate it without causing damage.
So the first step is just getting over that feeling that negotiation is a fight.
Absolutely. We often dread it. But it's really an emotional game, as Voss puts it, a dance of influence. You get what you ask for, You just have to learn to ask correctly, in a way that's psychologically smart, that respects their emotional world.
Okay, so building on that idea of understanding the emotional landscape, Voss dives into the practical tools, Chapter 2, Be a Mirror.
Right. And he starts with this intense story from his early days, a bank robbery in New York City, 1993, his first real feet-to-the-fire hostage job.
And things went wrong right away.
Pretty much. The initial intel was way off. They thought the robbers wanted to surrender, but nope, it was just a ploy, a delaying tactic.
So he learned fast how dangerous assumptions can be.
Instantly. How easily they can just completely mess up your perception and lead you down the wrong path entirely.
And this is where the FBI's team approach to listening comes in, even though listening well is actually really hard.
Exactly. They used multiple listeners,
Yeah.
not just one guy, trying to pick up extra details, shifts in mood, those little subconscious tells that give away true intentions.
Why multiple listeners? Is it that difficult?
It really is. We're so easily distracted. We filter information. We tend to hear what we already believe, confirmation bias. Most people go into a negotiation so busy thinking about their own arguments, their next clever line.
That they're not actually listening.
Not really. And this experience taught Voss something critical. Trying to rush to a solution. It can totally wreck rapport and trust.
So counterintuitively, slowing down is better.
Slowing down actually calms things down. As they say in the hostage world, if someone is talking, they're not shooting. It buys you time, builds connection.
Speaking of calming things down, it's kind of amazing that just changing your voice can have such a big impact.
Huge impact. He talks about two main vocal tones. First, the late-night FM DJ voice.
Okay, I can picture that. Calm, smooth.
Exactly. Calm, empathetic, reasonable. With that downward inflection that signals stability, trustworthiness. It's not just the words, it's how you are, your whole demeanor. Our brains pick up on that emotional subtext.
And the second voice.
The positive, playful voice. Easygoing, good-natured. He even says smile while you're talking, even on the phone.
Does that really work?
Apparently. He tells this funny story about his instructor's girlfriend getting amazing deals in Turkish spice markets just by being playful, radiating positivity, treating it like a fun game.
So warmth makes the conversation flow better, primes them for yes.
Creates a more cooperative vibe. Makes total sense. So, okay, your voice sets the tone. What's another one of those simple, almost like Jedi mind trick techniques for building connection?
That would be mirroring, which he calls the art of insinuating similarity.
Sounds fancy, but it's dead simple, right?
Almost ridiculously simple. You just repeat the last 3 words, or maybe the critical 1 to 3 words that someone just said.
Like an echo.
Kind of. But it triggers this gut reaction, makes them want to elaborate, and subconsciously signals, hey, you and I, we're on the same wavelength. We're alike.
Is there proof this works?
Yeah, he mentions a study by Richard Wiseman. Waiters who mirrored customers' orders by just repeating them back got 70% higher tips than waiters who just used positive affirmations like, great choice.
Wow, 70%, just for repeating a few words.
Crazy, right. And it works because it avoids making the other person defensive. It just subtly asks for clarity, like the story of his student and her impulsive boss.
Oh yeah, the copies one.
Right. Boss says, let's make 2 copies of everything. Student calmly mirrors, I'm sorry, 2 copies, just questioning, not challenging.
And the boss clarifies.
Yeah. Says digital backups are fine, saved her a week of pointless work. The key lesson, Voss says, is negotiation language isn't about big speeches, it's conversation, rapport, focusing on them, and slowing things down.
Slowing down again. It seems to be a theme. Creates mental space, maybe.
Mental agility, he calls it. Gives you time to think, them time to feel understood.
Okay, so mirroring is simple but powerful. Then chapter 3, he moves on to don't feel their pain, label it.
Right. And he describes this tough standoff in Harlem, 1998. No phone contact, just him talking through an apartment door for 6 hours.
6 hours, wow.
Yeah. Using that calm DJ voice and learning firsthand that just ignoring emotions, it's incredibly damaging. Good negotiators, they identify emotions, acknowledge them, and then, crucially, influence them by giving them a name, by labeling them.
Which gets us back to tactical empathy. He defines it as the ability to recognize the perspective of a counterpart and the vocalization of that recognition.
Vocalization is key. Saying it out loud.
Critical.
Yeah.
And it's vital to remember, this is not about agreeing with them. It's not sympathy.
Right.
Oh, you poor thing.
It's about understanding, seeing their viewpoint.
Understanding their feelings, their mindset, and even what's behind those feelings. Neuroscience actually backs this up. Our brains have mirror neurons. We literally resonate with others' emotions. It helps us grasp what they're feeling intuitively.
So even with an adversary, showing you understand their feelings gives you insight.
Massive insight. It helps you learn their real position, what might actually move them.
And the practical tool for this is labeling, which he calls a shortcut to intimacy.
Yeah, it's about validating their emotion just by acknowledging it, giving it a name. It seems like you're feeling frustrated.
Why is that so effective?
Because it gets you close, helps you connect with their internal state without making assumptions or asking probing questions about stuff you don't know. And it's incredibly useful when someone's tense or upset.
How so?
Because naming negative thoughts and fears, saying them out loud, actually makes them seem less scary, less powerful, more manageable.
Like shining a light on the monster under the bed.
Exactly. There's brain science here, too. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA showed that labeling an emotion actually shifts brain activity. It moves from the amygdala, the fear center, to the more rational parts, the prefrontal cortex. It literally dials down the intensity.
Wow. Okay, so how do you do it right? What are the rules?
The rules are crucial. Almost always start with phrases like, it seems like, it sounds like, or it looks like.
Not, I think you feel.
No, avoid I statements like, I'm hearing that, or I think you feel. Starting with, I can make people defensive, like you're telling them how they feel.
Got it. So it seems like, and then what?
And the most important part.
Yeah.
After you state the label. Silence.
Stop talking.
Stop talking. That silence is an invitation. It prompts them to elaborate, to confirm, to correct you. It gives them the floor.
That makes sense, but it still feels, I don't know, awkward to guess someone's feelings out loud.
It does feel awkward. That's why we resist it. We think, who am I to tell them how they feel? But the research shows people rarely focus on the awkwardness.
Yeah.
What they feel is understood.
It creates safety.
Genuine safety. It lets them open up. Labeling is really a way to subtly tune into and maybe even adjust their inner monologue. Guide them somewhere more collaborative.
So the goal is to neutralize the negative feelings.
And reinforce the positive ones. You go right at the negative stuff, fear, anger, suspicion, but you do it fearlessly, yet deferentially, by naming it.
Like Voss apologizing to that FBI official in Canada.
Exactly. The guy was angry. Voss hadn't cleared his entry. Voss disarmed him with humor. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. He named the potential disrespect up front, diffused the anger instantly, opened the door.
Took the wind right out of his sails. It's all about getting them to that aha moment, isn't it? Where they think, wow, this person actually gets me.
That's the magic moment. The Washington Redskins ticket sales example is perfect, too. The first script was all me, pay us now, failed miserably.
Right.
The revised script, it acknowledged the fans might be having tough times. It labeled their delinquency subtly, not as being irresponsible, but as maybe having a unique situation the rep could help work through.
So it showed empathy first.
Exactly. Diffuse the defensiveness. Result, way more successful payment plan setup.
And that Girl Scout fundraiser story is amazing too.
Oh, that's a great one. This immovable donor wouldn't commit. The fundraiser starts labeling, I'm sensing some hesitation, uncovers the first fear. Maybe the organization misspends money.
Okay, standard objection.
Right. But still no donation. So the fundraiser digs deeper, realizes the donor has this deep emotional connection to having been a Girl Scout herself.
The underlying religion.
Precisely. So she labels that. It sounds like there's something about these memories that makes you skeptical about how we operate today.
And that hit home.
Bullseye. The donor felt completely understood at that deep emotional level, and boom, made a big donation right then and there. Didn't even care which project it went to. Her need for integrity, for connection to her past, was met.
That's the power of getting to the real dynamic. And this leads to the accusation audit.
Yes. This is a crucial pre-negotiation step.
Yeah.
And it feels totally wrong at first, like really counterintuitive.
What do you do?
You list every single negative thing, every criticism, every fear, every accusation the other side could possibly think or say about you.
Okay.
And then you say them first, out loud.
Oh, that sounds like shooting yourself in the foot.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly disarming. It diffuses all that negativity before it even surfaces. It builds massive empathy because you're showing you understand their potential complaints. They feel heard before they even speak.
Any examples?
Voss used it on his own students before a role play, listing all their anxieties about the exercise. They all said he nailed it. And it works because when you voice these things, they often sound kind of exaggerated. It prompts the other person to actually deny them or say, well, it's not that bad.
So they end up defending you against your own accusations.
Sometimes. Or at least acknowledging your honesty. Like Anna's contract negotiation. She had to tell ABC they were getting paid less. bad news.
Tough spot.
So she led with an accusation audit.
I know you think we're here to tell you you've done a terrible job, that we're trying to screw you.
Totally.
Yeah.
But their response wasn't anger. It was basically, this sucks, but we appreciate you acknowledging it. We don't feel mistreated. It created this safe zone of empathy, allowed her to deliver the bad news and actually improve the relationship.
That accusation audit is, gutsy is the word, takes courage. Okay, chapter 4. This one really flips conventional wisdom. Beware, yes, master, no.
This is a big one. We're all trained, right? For your childhood. Chase the yes. Yes is good. No is bad. No feels like rejection, failure.
Exactly. The end of the road.
But Voss argues yes is often, well, meaningless.
Yeah.
It can be a polite way to get rid of you. A counterfeit, yes.
So like 3 types of yes: counterfeit, confirmation, commitment.
Right. Counterfeit is just to escape. Confirmation is a simple yes to a basic fact, like, is today Tuesday? Commitment is the real deal, the one you want. Problem is,
They all sound the same.
exactly the same. You can't tell which one you're getting.
Yeah.
Which is why Voss says no is actually pure gold.
No is gold.
How? Because no is safe for the other person. Saying no lets them feel in control. It maintains the status quo. And crucially, it helps clarify what they don't want.
Which often points you towards what they do want.
Precisely. No isn't the end of the negotiation. No is often the start of the real negotiation. It makes people feel secure, empowered, and paradoxically more open to considering alternatives once they've established their boundary.
Okay. So if yes is a trap and no is where the action starts, how do you actually get them to say no without just shutting down the whole conversation?
You invite no. That's the technique.
How do you invite no? Sounds weird.
It just means making it okay for them to say it. You might politely say no yourself to something they ask. You learn to hear no calmly without getting defensive. Or you explicitly tell them, look, it's perfectly okay to say no to this.
Just give them permission.
Yeah. It lowers barriers instantly, disarms them. He tells that story about Amy Bondurant, the FBI recruiter. She kept saying no to his request to join the hostage team.
And pushed him towards volunteering at a suicide hotline instead.
Right. And that experience was profound for him. It showed him the game beneath the game. That no wasn't necessarily rejection. It was an invitation to find a different path, a deeper solution.
Like Marty Evilsizer, the negotiation coordinator. Her boss tried to remove her.
Another great example. She suspected jealousy. But instead of arguing, she calmly invited the no. Asked him directly, are you saying you want me to leave my position?
Giving him the chance to say no to that direct statement.
Exactly. And then followed up with, what is it that you would like me to do? It put him back in control, let him save face, articulate his real needs, and she kept her job. Even strengthened the relationship.
Wow. And this works in fundraising too, getting away from those yes pattern scripts.
Big time. Those scripts that try to lead people to yes, they often failed. But no-oriented scripts, asking questions designed to elicit a no. Like, do you feel that if things stay the way they are, America's best days are ahead of it?
That's designed for them to say, no, I don't feel that way.
Right. And those scripts got a 23% better return because the donor felt in control from the start. The key takeaway, Voss stresses, if someone won't say no, if they keep giving you vague yeses or avoiding a clear answer.
Red flag.
Huge red flag. They're probably indecisive, confused, maybe hiding something. You might need to walk away. No deal means no go.
Even works in email, he says, that have you given up on this project? Question.
That's a classic no-oriented question. Forces a response, gently implies you're ready to move on, often gets you an answer when you've been ignored.
Okay, changing my view of no completely here. Now, chapter 5. This is about triggering 2 specific words. That's right.
Ah, the magic words. That's right, not yes. Not you're right, specifically that's right.
And he uses the Jeffrey Schilling kidnapping case in the Philippines to illustrate this. Abu Sayyaf, $10 million ransom.
Yeah, a really intense case. Abu Sabaya, the leader, was this notorious figure, huge ego. Calculated the ransom based on past payouts. Voss's goal wasn't just rescue, but maybe even taking down the group. Complex stuff.
And this case highlighted the behavioral change stairway.
Right. Yeah. That FBI model. Active listening leads to rapport, which builds empathy, which allows for influence, which then leads to behavioral change. It's a progression.
So where did that's right come into play?
The breakthrough involved Benji, the Philippine National Police leader. He hated Sabaya, really hated him, wanted to go in hard.
So Voss labeled his anger.
Directly. said something like, "You hate Sabaya, don't you?" Benji apparently exploded. "I tell you I do."
Voss counts that outburst as Benji's equivalent of, "That's right."
Acknowledging that rage helped him.
Massively. As soon as he owned it, vocalized it, he visibly calmed down, gained control, and became this incredibly effective, clear-headed negotiator for the rest of the crisis. It was a transformation.
So why is "that's right" so much more powerful than just "yes"? We know yes can be fake.
Exactly. Yes is ambiguous, but that's right. It signals deep understanding. It means they haven't just heard you. They've thought about what you said, processed it, and independently concluded that you are correct. It's their affirmation. Not just agreement, but recognition.
Recognition of truth, generated from within them. It dissolves barriers, creates this aha moment, this point of insight, without them feeling pressured or like they've conceded anything. It's a stealth victory for understanding.
And contrast that with, "You're right. Why is that usually bad news?"
Because "you're right" is almost always a brush off. It means, okay, just leave me alone, or fine, whatever, just stop talking. There's no real agreement, no commitment.
Voss learned that on the suicide hotline, when callers complimented him.
"Yeah, you did a great job."
Mm-hmm.
Often meant they were disengaging, not actually planning to follow through. Same with his son, Brandon, the football player who wouldn't dodge blocks.
Thought it was unmanly.
Right. So Voss didn't argue. He labeled the underlying belief. "You seem to think it's unmanly to dodge a block."
And Brandon said,
That's right. And that acknowledgement, that moment of self-realization, was the turning point. He embraced the reality, changed his approach, became a great linebacker. The insight came from him.
and this applies in business too, the pharma sales rep.
Perfect example. She couldn't get through to this difficult doctor. Instead of pushing her product, she focused on his passion. Labeled it, "Doctor, you seemed very passionate about treating your patients, how you worked hard to tailor treatment."
And he said,
That's right. Instantly. Heartfelt. That opened the door. Built trust. Then she could talk about how her product fit his patient-centered approach. Sale made.
it's about connecting to their world first, like the Korean MBA student needing to switch divisions.
Yeah, ex-boss kept saying no. Student used calibrated questions, didn't push. Uncovered the boss's hidden motive. He needed an ally in headquarters to lobby for his own promotion.
Ah, the hidden interest.
Exactly. The student summarized the situation basically saying, "So it sounds like you could approve my move if I was in HQ and could help you."
And the boss said,
"That's right. I must admit I need your help." Boom. Student got the job. And, importantly, uncover those crucial black swans, the hidden, game-changing info about the boss's real agenda. All triggered by getting to, that's right.
finding those black swans. We'll definitely come back to that. Okay, chapter 6. Bend their reality.
Right. And he kicks off with that Haitian kidnapping wave in 2004. Kidnappers demanding $150,000. Seemed impossible.
But Voss's team found a hidden motive.
Yeah, through careful listening, they figured out it was basically party money. They just wanted the cash by Friday for their weekend partying.
That little detail changed everything.
Completely. It became a huge leverage point. Suddenly, these were predictable 4-day events, which made them much cheaper to resolve because the kidnappers had their own internal deadline.
Which illustrates his point. Don't compromise, never split the difference.
Exactly. Compromise sounds nice, sounds fair, but it often leads to deals where nobody is truly happy. Like that classic example. Husband wants brown shoes, wife wants black shoes for the party. Compromise.
He wears one of each. Looks ridiculous.
And satisfies no one. Real creative solutions often require you to embrace the conflict, not just meet in the middle. Find a totally new angle.
So if splitting the difference is bad, how do you handle time pressure? Deadlines. They always make people anxious.
They do. Deadlines trigger anxiety, impulsive decisions because of that perceived loss, that fear of missing out. But Voss argues most deadlines, they're arbitrary, flexible, made up.
His mantra, no deal is better than a bad deal.
Right. In Haiti, knowing the kidnappers needed party money by Friday changed the game. You could predict the timeline. And while traditional advice is often hide your deadline.
Voss says that can be a mistake.
Often, yeah. It can increase the risk of impasse if the other side doesn't feel any urgency. Sometimes being transparent about your deadline, framed correctly, can actually push them to make concessions faster. They see the window closing.
Okay, interesting. Now, fairness, that word fair, you said earlier it's subjective, emotional. How do we use it strategically?
It's tricky because it is so emotional. The ultimatum game shows this perfectly. People will literally choose to get nothing rather than accept an offer they perceive as unfair.
Even if getting something is logically better.
Right. The feeling of being treated unfairly overrides the logic. That's why fair is probably the most powerful word in negotiation. Our brains are wired to react strongly to perceived unfairness. Even monkeys do it.
So how do we use the F word? Voss gives 3 ways.
3 ways. First, the implicit accusation. Saying things like, we just want what's fair. See, sounds reasonable, but it often puts the other side on the defensive, makes them subconsciously give ground, like his friend selling her house.
Second, the manipulative jab, like saying, we've given you a fair offer.
Yeah, that's often a deflection tactic, trying to shame you into accepting. Like the NFL owners in the lockout claiming fairness while refusing to show their books.
So what's the good way to use it?
The third way, his favorite, be proactive and constructive. Early on, say something like, I want you to feel you're being treated fairly at all times, so please stop me anytime if you feel I'm being unfair, and we'll address it right away.
Disarming. Sets you up as honest. Encourages dialogue.
Exactly. It's about tapping into their emotional drivers. Understanding what people are really buying. Not just the thing, but the feeling behind it. Babysitter sells a relaxed evening. Locksmith sells security.
Knowing that lets you frame your offer in language that resonates with their deeper needs. Connects back to prospect theory. Loss aversion.
Absolutely. People prefer sure things for gains, but gamble to avoid losses. So you anchor emotions.
How does that work?
You use that accusation audit first. Name all their fears, their negative assumptions. Anchor their expectations low. Then you play on loss aversion. Make the alternative to your offer seem like a significant loss.
Like Voss telling his subcontractors he could only pay $500 instead of $2,000.
Perfect example. Before dropping the low number, he hit them with the audit. You'll think I'm a lousy businessman screwing you over. Voiced all their potential anger.
Got it all out there.
Then he framed it as a loss.
Oh.
Still, I wanted to bring this opportunity to you before I took it elsewhere. Suddenly, it wasn't about gaining $500. It was about not losing $500.
And they all took the deal without arguing.
Every single one. That's framing loss. Powerful stuff.
Okay, so anchoring emotions low is good. But going first on price is usually bad.
Generally, yes. Unless you're setting a deliberate, extreme anchor as part of a strategy like Ackerman. He tells that story about Raymond Chandler negotiating his screenwriting fee.
Asked for $150 a week when they were ready to pay $750.
Ouch. Left a ton of money on the table just by going first. And your reputation matters too. If you always crush people, eventually they'll stop wanting to play with you.
So how do you hint at price without going first? Establishing a range.
That's one way. Top places pay between X and Y for this role. But be warned, they'll almost always anchor to the low end of your range.
And the other technique, pivoting to non-monetary terms.
Crucial. People get fixated on the dollar amount. But there's often huge value in non-cash items. Things that are cheap for you but valuable to them, or vice versa.
Like the Memphis Bar Association offering Voss a magazine cover story instead of his full fee.
Exactly. Priceless advertising for him, minimal cost for them. It's about finding creative value beyond just the money.
And the Haiti kidnapping recap ties it all together. Extreme low anchor, $3, non-round numbers, $4,751 to seem calculated.
Adding a small non-monetary item, CD stereo. It all combined to make the final offer seem like the absolute non-negotiable limit. And it worked. They accepted $4,751.
Angel's job negotiation, too. Focused on non-salary terms first, then slipped his desired salary range into the job description for the boss to fight for.
Clever. Let the boss be the champion. Less direct confrontation.
Okay, Chapter 7. Calibrated Questions, the illusion of control. This starts with a tough story, right? His big failure.
Yeah, the Dos Palmas hostage crisis in the Philippines, 2002. 13 months, just disastrous confrontational dynamics, military turf wars, horrific acts by the kidnappers. Sapaya, again, acting as a deal breaker, ended in deaths. Total failure.
And it showed the danger of that old FBI tit-for-tat mentality. Fear of asking, fear of no.
Exactly. It led to posturing, verbal flexing, not real communication, a destructive showdown. They realized that confrontational approach just didn't work against complex, irrational adversaries.
But failure leads to learning. He talks about Kevin Dutton's idea of suspending unbelief.
Right. The goal isn't always direct persuasion. Sometimes it's just stopping the other side from disbelieving you. Dismantling their skepticism, gently guiding their energy instead of pushing against it.
Like that Pittsburgh drug dealer case. The kidnapper was asked, how do I know she's all right?
Yeah, by another dealer who knew him. It was non-confrontational, just asking for help. The kidnapper was so surprised he just put the victim on the phone immediately. Huge win, achieved by asking, not demanding.
Shifting the burden gently works in medicine too. The patient ripping out his feelie.
Senior doctor didn't command him. Just ask calibrated questions. What do you hope to accomplish by leaving right now? Put the problem back on the patient.
And the patient solved it himself, feeling in control.
Exactly. Came around to the doctor's desired outcome, but felt like it was his own decision. Which brings us back to the MVP of calibrated questions.
How am I supposed to do that?
The greatest. It's a gentle no. It forces them to use their brain power to solve your problem. Appeals to their ego, their intelligence. Like the consultant getting paid by the difficult client.
Just asked, how am I supposed to do that? And the client folded.
Pretty much. Apologized, explained his problems, promised payment, disarmed completely.
So you take the reins, but subtly. They feel like they're driving, but you're navigating. Pretty cool.
Very cool. The rules are key. Start with what or how. They invite detailed answers. Avoid who, when, where. Those just get facts.
And why? Be careful with why.
Very careful. Why usually sounds accusatory, makes people defensive. Only use it if that defensiveness actually helps your goal. Like, why would you ever change from your current supplier? Forces them to justify their status quo.
And Voss used this on his own boss about the Harvard trip.
Yeah. Voss started questioning the already approved trip. Voss didn't argue. Asked, when you originally approved this, what did you have in mind?
Put the focus back on the boss's original reasoning.
Voss relaxed, explained himself, felt his authority reinforced, and the trip was solidified. It highlights the need for self-control. Don't react emotionally. Ask a question instead.
Calibrated questions don't offer a target for attack. They reframe the problem.
Exactly. Educates them about the shared problem. Doesn't create conflict.
Okay, Chapter 8, Guarantee Execution. This starts with another tough one. The St. Martin Parish prison siege.
Right. Inmates scared of being beaten. Elaborate surrender plan with walkie-talkies. All hinged on that first guy's signaling safety.
But one SWAT officer didn't get the memo. Confiscated the walkie-talkie.
Yeah. Instant panic. Renewed threats. Nearly disastrous. It starkly showed how critical full team buy-in is. Everyone needs to understand the how.
Which leads to the principle, yes is nothing without how.
Absolutely. A yes without a clear implementation plan is meaningless. It's just hot air. The Jose kidnapping in Ecuador proves it. $5 million ransom.
And Voss told the negotiators to just keep asking how.
Only 2 questions, relentlessly. How do we know Jose is okay? And how are you supposed to pay until we know Jose is okay?
Drove the kidnapper crazy.
Total perplexed him. Kept asking for time to think. Slowed everything right down. And Jose, the hostage, brilliantly used that time to build rapport with the guards and eventually escaped when things got lax. The how saved him.
So to make sure a yes actually sticks, to guarantee execution, what are the 2 key questions?
2 crucial ones. How will we know we're on track? And how will we address things if we find we're off track?
Get them to articulate the plan and the backup plan.
And then you summarize their answers until you get that magic. That's right. That signals real commitment to the how, which raises the question, how do you spot fake buy-in when they say yes but don't mean it?
Good question. Because fake yeses can kill deals later. What are the warning signs?
2 big ones. They say you're right. Remember, that's often disengagement.
The polite brush off.
Right. And the other. When you push for specifics on implementation and they give you a vague, I'll try.
I'll try really means I plan to fail.
In negotiation, often yes. It's a massive red flag. No real commitment. And this all ties into understanding the hidden negotiation behind the table.
The people not in the room who can still sink the deal.
Exactly. That one SWAT officer or that Coca-Cola contact avoiding calls because he lost internal clout. Effective negotiators watch everything verbal, tone, body language, and they pay attention to the stakeholders who aren't even there because they hold the keys to execution.
Right. The how needs everyone on board, even the bit players. Okay. Chapter 9. Bargain hard. And Voss starts with buying that truck, right? His Toyota 4Runner.
Yeah, it's a great detailed story. He walks through using all his techniques, labeling calibrated questions, the works, to get a $36,000 truck down to $30,000.
Yeah.
It perfectly sets up the Ackerman method.
But most people hate haggling, right?
Yeah.
That bargaining anxiety.
Totally. Most of us dread that clash for cash. It feels uncomfortable, adversarial. But top negotiators, they embrace it. They see conflict, managed well, as the path to truth, creativity, real solutions.
And part of that is identifying negotiation styles, knowing who you're dealing with.
Crucial. Lets you tailor your approach. He breaks it down into the 3 main types. First, analysts.
The methodical ones. Hate mistakes. Don't rush. Maybe seem a bit cold. Use that FM DJ voice.
That's them. Give them time. Give them data they need to process. Second, accommodators.
Relationship people want harmony, love win-win, friendly, easy to talk to.
Usually. But the challenge is they hate conflict so much, it can be hard to uncover their real objections. They might concede too easily just to keep things smooth.
Third,
assertives.
Direct. Time is money. Focus on the goal. Strong tone. Maybe a bit impatient.
Can be. They respond well to respect, reciprocity, mirrors, calibrated questions, labels, summaries. Those work well. But they expect you to give if they give.
And the advice for listeners, if you're an analyst, maybe consciously smile more. Seem more approachable.
Good idea. Helps draw information out. And if you're an assertive, check your tone. You might sound harsher than you mean to. Could shut people down.
And how these types interpret silence is totally different, too.
Completely. Accommodator hears silence, thinks, oh no, they're angry. Analyst hears silence, thinks good, they're thinking. Assertive hears silence, thinks, my turn to talk. Or, they've got nothing.
Which is why the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated, is wrong here.
Totally wrong in negotiation.
Yeah.
Don't treat them like you. Treat them like they need to be treated, based on their style, their needs.
Okay. And when bargaining hard, especially with pros, watch out for extreme anchors.
Definitely. Skilled negotiators often open with a crazy number way out there just to throw you off balance, disorient you.
So your job is to take the punch. Don't react emotionally. Don't immediately offer something closer.
Exactly. Don't flinch. Don't start bidding against yourself. Instead, maybe use smart assertions.
Like strategic controlled anger. Or just firm I messages. Sorry, that doesn't work for me.
Right. Setting boundaries clearly but calmly. Not escalating. And the absolute core mindset.
No neediness. Be willing to walk away.
Always. No deal is better than a bad deal. Maintain tough love for your goals, but never hatred for the person. The situation is the adversary, not them.
And all this comes together in the Ackerman bargaining method, that step-by-step process he used for the truck.
Yes. It's a structured way to bargain effectively. 4 key steps. 1. Set an extreme anchor, usually around 65% of your target price. It shocks them.
Okay. Step 2.
Make progressive offer increases, but in diminishing increments. So maybe offer 85% of your target, then 95%, then finally 100%. Each jump gets smaller. Signals you're nearing your limit.
It makes your concession seem harder. 1. Step 3.
Use calibrated questions between your offers. Gently bait them into bidding against themselves. How am I supposed to pay that? What makes that a fair price?
Get them justifying their numbers. And step 4.
End with a non-round number, your final offer. Not $30,000, but $30,237 or whatever. Psychologically, it feels precise, calculated, like it's your absolute bottom line.
Like Missouri negotiating his rent. Landlord wanted a big hike.
Yeah, Missouri used Ackerman. Extreme low anchor. Diminishing increments. Calibrated questions like, it seems like you'd rather risk leaving it empty than accept a lower offer now. May the landlord confront potential loss. Ended with a non-round number.
And got a big discount.
Significant discount. Because the landlord, even though he didn't get his asking price, felt like he'd really squeezed Missouri. He felt like he won. That's the beauty of it. It lets them save face while you reach your target.
Masterful psychological bargaining. Okay, final chapter we're covering, chapter 10. Find the black swan, the unknown unknowns.
Right. Back to those hidden game changers. He starts with the William Griffin bank hostage case from 1981.
The guy who killed his family, shot people, took hostages, but made no demands.
Exactly. Police and FBI were stumped. Their playbook didn't work when there were no demands to negotiate against.
Because they were missing the black swans, these hidden, unexpected pieces of info, the unknown unknowns that Nassim Taleb wrote about.
Right. Things completely outside normal expectations that totally changed the game. Griffin's black swans. He had already killed without asking for money. Yeah. And his note said, after the police take my life.
He wanted suicide by cop. That was the hidden motive.
That was the game changer. But the FBI's reliance on old templates, assuming all hostage takers want something tangible, blinded them.
So finding black swans requires a different mindset. Openness, intuition, listening differently.
Totally. You have to be incredibly curious. Most people don't even know what questions might uncover these things. It ties into his view of leverage.
Not just about inflicting loss or withholding gain.
He argues it's more emotional, and it can be manufactured. His core belief, if they're talking to you, you have leverage, period. He breaks leverage into 3 types. Positive leverage.
Your ability to give them what they want. The carrot.
Negative leverage.
Your ability to hurt them. The stick. Use carefully. Label it.
Very carefully.
Yeah.
and normative leverage.
Using their own standards, their values against them, pointing out inconsistencies.
It's super powerful, which leads to maybe his deepest concept: know their religion.
Not necessarily literal religion, right? But their worldview, core beliefs, what truly drives them.
Exactly. Their reason for being, their non-negotiables. Understanding this accesses that hidden space where black swans live. It tells you what they really value. Like the Dwight Watson case.
The farmer with the tractor and fake bombs in D.C., protesting tobacco policies, believed God told him to, had that military honor code.
Right. Negotiations stalled. Then a colleague of Voss, through deep listening, found those keys. Devout Christian military code about withdrawing if reinforcements didn't arrive in 3 days.
And they used that for the dawn of the third day intervention.
Brilliant move. Said, Mr. Watson, if Christ came out on the dawn of the third day, why not Watson? Framed it perfectly within his own belief system. Gave him an honorable way out. Resolved the crisis peacefully.
Wow, that's deep understanding. Connects to the similarity principle, too. We trust people like us.
Yeah. Triggering that sense of shared identity, common ground, values, even just mirroring tone builds influence. Like Voss landing that Christian CEO client just by using the word stewardship. Instant connection.
Once you know their religion, you can use their hopes and dreams to guide them, show how your solution aligns with their aspirations.
Exactly. And finally, when someone seems totally irrational, remember, it's not crazy, it's a clue.
People are rarely just crazy. There's usually a reason.
Almost always. Voss says it usually points to one of three things. One, they're ill-informed, acting on bad data, like the ex-employee demanding commissions he wasn't actually owed.
Two, they're operating under constraints, hidden limits they can't reveal, like the Coke contact avoiding calls because his division was in chaos, he felt powerless. And three, they have other interests, hidden goals driving them, like William Griffin wanting suicide by cop, not ransom.
So if someone's acting weird, ghosting you, not making sense, don't assume they're crazy. Ask yourself, are they misinformed? Are they constrained? Do they have a hidden agenda?
How do you find out, especially with constraints or hidden interests? If they won't tell you.
Often requires getting face-to-face, but maybe not talking business directly. Like Voss advised with the Coke guy. Invite him to dinner, just have a few laughs, no business talk, lower the pressure, build rapport. Often, the truth comes out then.
Like the Charleston property deal. Student thought the seller was crazy for selling a profitable building cheap.
Yeah, but the Black Swan. The seller had other losing properties draining him. He needed cash from the cash cow to stop the bleeding elsewhere. That hidden constraint dramatically changed the negotiation, led to a huge price drop.
It all comes back to embracing conflict, not avoiding it.
Right. Conflict managed well is where truth emerges, where creativity happens, where resolution is found. Remember, the situation is the adversary, not the person.
So we've covered a lot, from the surprising power of inviting no and leveraging how, to the almost magical effects of mirroring and labeling and finding those critical black swans.
Yeah, a whirlwind tour through some really powerful psychological tools.
And the key thing is, these aren't just for FBI agents in crazy situations. They're universal tools for better communication, stronger relationships, getting what you need just in everyday life.
Absolutely. Every conversation, really, is a series of these small negotiations, these little conflicts over wants and needs, fears and hopes.
When we understand it's an emotional game, we can play it better, not just to win, but to connect, to move people to a better place, maybe.
That's the real heart of it, I think, effective human interaction.
So here's something to think about, a final thought for you listening. Think about the last time you sidestepped a conflict, big or small. Maybe because it felt awkward, you feared the outcome, or you just wanted to keep the peace.
We all do it.
We all do. But what if embracing that discomfort, using just one or two of these tools, tactical empathy, a calibrated question, a label what if, that could not only get you closer to what you want, but actually strengthen the relationship you were trying to protect by avoiding the issue?
It's a powerful thought. That conflict managed well
Can actually lead to something better, something more creative, more connected, maybe even beautiful.